Hi, this is Eugene from Economics at Tuition Genius, and this is our new series called Circuit Breaker Economics. In this second episode, we are going to talk about how COVID-19 has changed the world that we live in. Now, if we look at e-learning, in Singapore previously, e-learning was not something that was done commonly, especially in schools. Now, most schools dedicate like one week per year for e-learning, and it's not like really nicely weaved into the curriculum. And as well as tuition centers, most tuition centers were not online in any way at all in the last few years. I think things have changed quite tremendously in the last few weeks. Now, every single school in Singapore has moved on to home-based learning. Even preschools have moved on to home-based learning. And tuition centers were all forced also to move to home-based learning a couple of weeks before MOE schools did. And I think everybody had a pretty steep learning curve, whether be it school teachers, whether be it tutors, whether be it students. Everybody was scrambling to actually move learning online. Now, teachers had to, at short notice, learn how to create e-resources, learn how to use Zoom video conferencing tools, and students had to adapt in terms of sitting in front of the computer for hours staring at the screen. I think this has been a pretty difficult time, but it's definitely going to change the way that we do things. Now, I think that moving forward, learning online will be something that feels more intuitive and can be done at will, as opposed to previously just being an afterthought. And so I think that a lot of the learning after this COVID-19 crisis has ended are going to be moved online, and I think a lot of us will be more well equipped and prepared to actually move classes online. Now, so there might be less traveling. Perhaps sometimes from time to time we could have more e-learning weeks where we can spend a substantial amount of time learning from home and save some time. And also, I think that COVID-19 has also changed the way that we work. Now, previously, again, telecommuting doesn't feel like a very standardized thing that countries or in fact firms do. Now, telecommuting feels like a staff benefit or staff perk that employers give their employees as part of a work-life balance kind of package, right? But I think with everybody having to telecommute, perhaps not everybody, but with most of us having to telecommute in the last few weeks and in some countries months already, I think we are starting to realize that actually some of our job functions can possibly be effectively and efficiently be done online and at home. So I think it's going to change the way that the world works. Perhaps more of a percentage of every single workforce should have the opportunity to move their work or their job online, and telecommuting should become a more integral possible option as opposed to an afterthought. Okay, and that's the second thing. And the third, for governments around the world and especially for Singapore, now globalization has all this while caused countries to be more interconnected, increasing trade, increasing labor flows, increasing capital flows, and this has all been beneficial, especially for small countries like Singapore. But I think we are starting to also realize that the potential pitfalls of globalization is that in times like this, in crises like this, okay, we are more vulnerable than ever. Right, for example, food supply. Now, previously, only about 10% or less of our food supply is produced locally. Now, I'm glad that we are having this plan of 30% by 2030 of our 30% of our food supply by year 2030 will be produced locally. So this will actually try to remove or reduce some of our vulnerabilities. I think it's also timely for countries to actually reevaluate whether they want so much of their economy being dependent on external forces, being affected by external forces like, for example, tourism or exports. I think that countries should do more to actually try to make sure that they have a backup plan, right, in terms of crisis like this. Okay, so fundamentally, if you think about it, the world that we live in has already changed. Number one, there is a change in terms of how learning will be done. Number two, there's also a change in terms of how we view work. That work has to be absolutely physically at the office, when we now realize that actually work can be in fact done at home. Right? Okay, not all work, but some work can now be efficiently and effectively done at home when previously we didn't think it was possible. Processes can be put in place to make sure that work can be done efficiently and effectively at home, at least for some jobs. Perhaps not for all jobs, but for some jobs. Right, and think of the potential benefits of that happening. You could reduce traffic jams, you could reduce time saved on traveling, and you could allow families to have more work-life balance. Alright, and of course, finally, we also start to realize that how vulnerable we can be without our production of strategic goods, without our own production of food to ensure that we are somewhat secure and ready to meet with this kind of crisis. Right, so this is Eugene from our episode today on Circuit Breaker Economics. So we'll catch you on the next one.